Hello buddy, it's Wyvern here with one last little early access Total War Warhammer 2 Twisted in the Twilight video, and it's going to be a multiplayer match of Wood Elves against Lizardmen led by Rubber Duck of War. And for this matchup, we're going to be bringing some slightly more conventional units, namely Big Papa Durthu over here, towering over the land with his blade drawn and a horde of very angry forest critters at his feet. So it's going to be an interesting match. We are taking advantage, of course, of that new Vanguard deployment that's been added for all tree units, and going to be seeing if we can get into jump here on this very large and pretty nasty missile-based Lizardman force. So going over the composition here, for my lord, we are rocking Durthu. Durthu is a beast against Lizardmen. He's very hard for them to kill, despite his fire vulnerability, which we're actually negating right now with the Firebark Elders. He does have missile resist. He's got physical resist of 20% on top of that, and 110 armor. So solar engines, chameleon skinks, none of those units really kill him quickly. He can just kind of shrug it all off, laugh it all off, and march through your army, beating the crap out of everything he faces in a brutal 1v1 showdown. Now, going over his kit here, we are actually bringing Wild Heart and the Manticore Summon, which is still a Manticore Summon for Durthu, unlike all the other elf casters. Now, bit of an oddball choice here. Probably shouldn't have bothered with Wild Heart with only a single Manticore Summon, but oh well, is what it is. We do also have the Lamentation of Despair, just to help snipe out single characters a little bit better, and the Sword of Death to debuff enemy armor and melt enemy formations a little more efficiently. Should especially help our Glade Riders and our Dryads perform a bit better. Alongside Durthu, we do have a massive Tree Man, and this bad boy, of course, is basically a cheaper, slightly weaker Durthu, but he will also be kind of much like Durthu. He's got the same resistances: missile resist, physical resist, and of course a whopping 110 armor plus almost 7,000 HP. At their feet, this tiny little Branch Wraith is going to be running forward with the skeleton on her back, jangling along, and she of course does have the Penumbral Pendulum to help break up enemy formations. Shield of Thorns, just so I can spam it on the trees and get a constant 40%, 42% physical resist and a little bit more damage. Earth Blood for the heals, and we do also have the Call of the Woods, so able to buff up all these troops' melee attack, especially the Firebark Elders, who otherwise don't have the greatest melee attack stats, but with their improved weapon strength, they should be much more capable of melting through, say, skinks, who normally would just stall Treekin for days. Not because they do much damage or because they've got good stats, but just because Treekin are so bad offensively. But they're much more respectable now. We'll be looking to use this Firebark Elders as a strong anchor and damage dealer. Alongside them, we do have the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart. These Regiment of Renowned Dryads are pretty nasty. They do have Frostbite, Frenzy, and are, of course, Veteran C9, so they can really mince through units like Skinks very, very quickly. 2 more units of Dryads on the periphery, providing additional width, and then 2 units of Glade Riders with Spears, providing even more width on top of that. And these guys are already taking a few poking shots there from the Chameleon Skinks are air raid in front of Duck's army, so they do got to be a little careful, but they will allow us to pressure the back line a little more efficiently. And finally, in the back, we do have 2 units of Zoets. So the big, angry Dragon Ogre knockoffs are going to be roaring forward. And this does mean we actually have 4 instances of bound Flesh to Stone and 4 instances of bound Earthblood. So that's, when you calculate it, that's over 1,300 healing right there. So a pretty hefty amount of heals. And on top of what we can actually get with our magic. So that's pretty nasty. And these guys, of course, will beat down a lot of the big Lizardman monsters one-on-one. Now, Duck's build here, not really taking advantage of any of the newly changed units. Granted, the Lizardmen haven't really had much in the way of changes. He's got a Vanguard force of Chameleon Skinks. These guys are very, very annoying to deal with for the Wood Elves. They don't really have any cost-effective counters besides maybe like Blade Guard. These guys are just so cheap and so resilient to missiles for how little they cost. And you can see here already chipping down the poor Dryads quite effectively. 2 Bastillodons with solar engines also firing away. Fortunately, we do have those Firebark Elders who themselves are basically invulnerable to the Bastillodons. Plus Durthu and the Tree Man, of course, are pretty resistant. Unfortunately, some of those Skinks, they're getting flattened by those beams of Sotek. Not having a good time, but Swiftly, Rubber Duck does shift fire to the branch rate, looking to single out and snipe out my caster. Front line here does include some Saurus Warriors with shields. These bad boys should be able to trade pretty effectively with Dryads. He also does have some Cold One Spear Riders in the reserve to protect against large, and a single Saurus Scarvet to provide even more anti-large punch and support the Salon Mage Priest of Fire. So interesting choice here, the Salon Mage Priest. He does have Fireball and Flaming Sword of Ruin, so some pretty nasty buffs. Banishment, of course, to melt formations. Shield of the Old Ones to protect his troops. And then Aura of Quetzal and Blood Statue of Spite. So looking to finish off the single entities with maybe the Old Blood Scarvet and the Chameleon Skinks and Bastillodons, while using the Salon Mage Priest here to really mess up my infantry. Now, as you can see here, the Saurus Warriors are not having a good day at all. The Skink Horde with Javelins just gets overwhelmed immediately. And although the Cold One Spears are going to plow in here and force off the Glade Riders, they are going to have a little bit of a hard time once we manage to counterattack. Now you can see the big old blob of trees just smashing its way through the front line. Some solar engine shots going in, but doing very little to Durthu. He just doesn't care with so much armor. And over here, Zoets, despite being banished, are just piling through and beating the crap out of these Cold One Spear Riders, really putting them down and ruining their day, casting Earthblood on themselves, and just not giving a crap in general. Over here in the meantime, these Cold One Spear Riders are now being engaged by these Zoets, and you can see Earthblood going down, restoring the HP of the pocket of elite troops here, and we're just sustaining through the fight. This poor Saurus Scarvet does try to engage. Keep in mind, though, my opponent has no healing. Blood Statue of Spite does go down on the Zoets, so melting them a little bit, but they're pretty resistant. Statue of Spite, something you really want to use on, say, Dryads. But they are going to pop some Flesh to Stone there, resisting the Chameleon Skink Fire, so going up to 120 armor. So suddenly those Chameleon Skinks look like a joke, and they do force the Saurus Scarvet to flee. And you can see there, Duck paying good attention to my spellcasts, and thus able to shift his fire to more valuable, or more easy targets, I should say, such as the Tree Men and Durthu. But you can see the Chameleon Skinks here are going to start shifting away as the Zoets pile in and start beating down the Bastillodon. And this is really beginning to become a troublesome situation. Yes, there's some Javelins flying in. Yes, there's still Saurus Scarvet running around. But the backline is compromised. The Bastillodon, one is completely shut down right now. The other one is off to the side here firing, but not really able to generate huge value against Durthu, which just strides through the madness, shrugging off damage left and right. In the meantime, we're going to see another Shield of Thorns go down, buffing up the damage output on these Dryads, making them slug it out with these Saurus Warriors all the better. And of course, keep in mind, Zoets are going to be whomping on them as well. They're not ideal stat-wise against Saurus, but good enough, and the routes are going down. Now, yes, Durthu has dropped about half HP at this point, though right now with over 50% resistance and 170 armor, he's basically an untouchable juggernaut for these Chameleon Skinks. You can see once again Rubber Duck shifting fire to the Tree Man. But we are enduring. We are slugging our way through. Slowly but surely, this Death Ball is just grinding its way through the fray. The Skink Hordes routed. Over here, the Saurus Scarvet routed. The Glade Riders pursuing him from the field, and he's down to 45 HP. He's not coming back from that, I don't think. He's doomed. Over here, these Cold One Spear Riders down to 8 models. And yes, the Chameleon Skinks still have almost half HP, or half ammo, or over half ammo, depending on which one we're talking about. But the attrition game is going well for us. We're able to catch the Bastillodon here, start whomping on him a little bit with the Zoets, despite the Blood Statuette. And as long as I can get the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart on a target, he cannot escape. 26 speed means he has zero hope of fleeing. You can see a Beam of Chotek there kind of whiffing. Beautiful Banishment going down over here, though. And yeah, these Dryads are going to be thrown around and annihilated. Though, of course, Durthu and the trees stand strong. They don't give a crap. Fireball does smack that Tree Man, but he doesn't care. He's just going to mulch through this Bastillodon. Really lucky RNG there, I think, on the Banishment. It kind of stuck around for longer than I would have expected. But it just do be like that sometimes. And you can see a mass terror out there for the forces of the Lizard, of the, what else? Cold One Spears here trying to engage on the Tree Man and Durthu. And they are going to lay down their lives for the greater good there. But in the meantime, pursuit continues. Bastillodon here being chased down. The Frosty Ladies getting a snare on him and pinning him down for the Zoets, who will in turn start beating the crap out of this armored monstrosity. They can really beat the brakes off the Bastillodon once we're in their sustained melee, despite the constant poisoning, because of course all this Chameleon Skink Fire is adding up. Now, beautiful use of Flaming Sword of Ruin here, using that magic damage to at least negate the physical resistance, and we do actually wander back into range of our Firebark Elder support there, trying to negate that fire damage. Some Glade Riders here are returning to the fray, and unfortunately the Salon Mage Priest is on his last legs, down to a handful of HP, here, just 2,600 or so. The Chameleon King starting to run a little low on ammo here. Some even have gotten caught. 48 speed, of course, could allow them to escape right now. But if any of the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart come back and they manage to snare these guys, it's going to be a game for these poor skinks. Durthu here, still tanking fire, just doesn't care. He still has over 2,000 HP. Keep that in mind. It looks like he's dying, but he's got over 2,000 HP, dropping below once. But he's staying in there, knocking out these Colon Spear Riders, sending them fleeing back to the hills. Shield of the Old Ones does go down. They're trying to protect this pocket, but Chameleon King's just not able to hold. Durthu just strides forward confidently. Earthblood healing for another 700 HP. He just doesn't give a crap. And as the ammo runs thin, keep in mind there's another Tree Man, and there's all these Firebark Elders still left, and these Chameleon Kings without ammo are going to be helpless against that. And it's just constant attrition. The Zoets back there, these Zoets over here running down the Bastiladon, so it's a constant pressure. There's a lot of reserves still left over for the Wood Elves. Lamentation of Despair there smacks the Bastiladon, does about nothing, but you know, it looked cool for a second. And another Flesh to Stone just goes down, and Durthu's just like, yeah, you can shoot me, I don't really care too much. Obviously, Rubber Duck trying to focus at this point because there aren't too many options left. If he doesn't kill Durthu, there's no way you're going to be able to rout this army. But unfortunately right now, even if all else succeeded, the Firebark Elders are just going to be so hard to kill, and it's going to be a master rout at this point for the poor lizards. And they do take the win. So, Pyrrhic victory for the Wood Elves. And highlighting some insane buff spam that you can pull off now. Now, keep in mind, Zoets do have combat stats that are inferior to Dragon Ogres across the board, basically. They are just bad Dragon Ogres. But in exchange, you do get 4 bound spells, and that adds up over the course of a game. Getting essentially 24, I believe, winds of magic worth of spells free is nice. That is easily worth the slightly sub-average combat stats. I do keep in mind they also do, of course, have the magic resist remover as well as magic damage of their own, so they're not entirely a downgrade from Dragon Ogres. They do have some of these peripheral benefits that Dragon Ogres don't have, yeah, you can see the chevrons here, 2 and 1, just able to womp their way through the Colon Spears, the Bastiladons, and just nothing can shut them down, really. And in the meantime, the Tree Blob, you just spam heals on them, and the little skinks can't do enough damage. They just can't. So a little unfortunate there. These Dryads actually racked up quite a bit of damage and surprisingly good value. I'm not entirely sure what they fought to generate almost 900 in value with only 6,000 damage. But pretty darn impressive. None of the others generated quite that much value. But you can see here, it's an attrition game, and the Wood Elves have become quite good at it. Only Durthu there really breaking the mold with huge damage output, but everyone contributing their fair share. And I do think that in hindsight, of course, bringing the Manticore Summon was a total waste. So probably I could have just left all the Winds of Magic to the Branch Wraith and saved myself a couple hundred gold, perhaps got an extra Dryad on the field, an extra Blade Rider Spear, something like that, and I would have been in a better spot. For Rubber Duck's build, I actually don't think it's a bad composition. I do think there was a little bit of a lack of melee finishing power. This build is very much built around the missiles, so when you're able to just out-attrition the missiles in the long haul, because you got all those resistances that stack, the physical resistances, armor, missile resistance, it becomes a huge issue. And you're just not able to burn through the HP pool. And your units start getting snared and bogged down, and one by one they fall. And I think it's a bit of a situation. Not entirely sure where I would make cuts to free up some space. Because the Salon Mage Priest is pretty cheap. And obviously you don't want a Salon Mage Priest of Life or something with this kind of build. But perhaps bring 10 in 1 instead. Just get Beasts, get some Manticore summons. Not entirely sure. But maybe shifting around the values a little bit could help. Could have helped here. But some excellent banishments went down. 2,500 value on this bad boy. I think the most value generator of any unit. It's just insane. You can see these guys generated massive value. If you look at on paper, all these guys paid for themselves, or except for this Chameleon King. All the other ones paid for themselves. But it just didn't matter when I've got essentially 2 tree men worth of HP on each of these guys. So with all the heals that are going to go down over the course of a game, because all those Earthbloods add up. and it just becomes a huge issue to burn through. But regardless, well played to Rubber Duck here. Be sure to check out his channel. He's got some great multiplayer content. And great guy. Has just always a pleasure to play with. And do hope you guys enjoyed. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.